You're listening to episode 73 of Untapped Confidence. This is a space for high achievers, especially women, to come and understand how they can deepen into authentic confidence, how they can slow down and get out of their heads and into their body and really just enjoy life. Stop pushing and driving and trying to control so much of their lives and really, truly relax. My name is Rafaela Marie. I'm your host. I struggled with chronic skin picking for 15 years, and the confidence journey I have been on has been absolutely life-changing and has been a key part of healing from chronic skin picking and also just building a life and becoming the person that I am today. I've been helping incredible women over the past 2.5 years to heal from chronic skin picking and also to build their confidence, gain more access to their authenticity, and to really just feel good in who they are and the life that they have. Today, I'm interviewing one of my incredible clients, Melissa. We have just finished our working together, and her journey is such a powerful example of what's possible when you approach healing with self-kindness and curiosity. She shares how she went from self-criticism and perfectionism to cultivating compassion and celebrating her progress and finding freedom from the shame of skin picking. In this conversation, we talk about how learning to celebrate herself changed Melissa's relationship with confidence, the shift from willpower and harshness to kindness and flexibility, why the mind-body connection has been a game changer in reducing skin picking for her, how community and group calls accelerated her growth and self-acceptance, and she shares some advice for anyone feeling like it's too late to start their healing journey. Melissa's story is an inspiring reminder that no matter your age, your background, or how long you've been struggling, it's never too late to meet yourself with loving kindness and create the lasting change that you want to see. Without further ado, let's get into it. So my first question for you is what for you was the biggest thing that you feel that you had to work through to become the person that you are today?
I think the biggest thing that I had to work through was celebrating myself. I want to say gaining confidence, but I think first and foremost, it was realizing what I have done and not falling back on perfectionism and like, darn, I didn't finish that diet or that, using that tool more or, whatever it is in my daily life. Just, I've actually started writing down in my journal that I'm keeping to keep track of my picking to see if I can relate it to, hormonal changes, whatever. I'm also putting down everything as far as I can remember by the end of the day, what I've done that day. And last night I was reading it through because I didn't think, oh, what did you do today? Not really that much. And by the end of it, I realized you did get a lot accomplished. So that's helpful. So I think really celebrating myself and giving myself credit for what I do rather than thinking about what I may not have done. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And I really, really love that you share that because I can see it's so you, and that has been such a big part of your journey. And I see how much you're leaning into that now and how much it's giving you. It's really amazing to see. And also because I feel like so many people who listen to this are going to resonate with what you're saying, because so many people are so harsh on themselves and they don't give themselves enough credit and they don't celebrate themselves enough. And then understandably, life gets really hard if you're constantly hard on yourself.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
I'm getting close to 70. I'll bring up my age again because I'm rather proud of who I am today, despite my age. And I have a lot of wisdom because of that, but I've also learned a lot from all the other folks in your program. And it's kind of nice to get the younger aspect and also share my perspective. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also really appreciate you in the group because you do have a lot of wisdom and perspective to bring, it's just such a gift as well. Yeah. So then now I'd really love to know, what do you feel is the difference between who you were before we started working together and who you are now?
I think the biggest difference, and it's a pretty physical one, is really paying attention to how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling tense or anxious, it's like, where am I feeling that physically? And giving a color or a shape or something to that to kind of bring it into your mind as something real. I still have a lot of work to do on that because sometimes I find myself getting, tense or anxious depending on the day. But with breathing and just really where am I feeling it in my body, that's an awareness I didn't have before. So I think that's really helped. Just kind of because I think what do you say? Your mind just follows. I'm not going to say this right, but your mind follows how your body feel. What your body's feeling is sending the message to your mind, and that's how you think you are. I guess I don't know if
Mhm.
you can. You can probably explain it much better, but just the mind body connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I so agree. And I think and tell me if this is accurate with what you were trying to say is the how you feel will trigger patterns about what you
Mm.
think about yourself. And if we haven't
Yes.
got that mind body connection, we just believe those thoughts and we think they're true and they
Hmm.
impact how we show up in our life. So if we feel bad, whatever that might mean for someone, that might trigger a belief of, well, I'm a bad person, I'm not doing enough, I'm not
Hmm.
worthy. And then that makes us act in ways that confirms those beliefs.
Right.
Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
yes, that's exactly right. How your body feels triggers how your what you think. And I've not only in your program, as you say, your work rests on the shoulders of a lot of other great thinkers that have come before, and I've seen that strain of, reasoning through a lot of other things that I've watched or read, and I never knew that. I mean, I more and more I'm realizing our gut, especially, just controls so much more than anybody ever knew. So that's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one. And I love that you brought it up because the mind body connection and listening to our gut, our intuition, and things like that, it's something that I feel like a lot of us are afraid to do because obviously, we've both experienced in our own journeys. Sometimes moving through that emotion can be very hard and confronting and challenging.
Yep.
And so, yeah, if you're willing to go down that path, there's so many benefits that come from that.
Exactly. And as I've discovered in our work through the personal coaching is emotions are very uncomfortable for me. My family wasn't demonstrative in that way, and I never learned. And so, a couple of times in our one-on-one sessions, I've, felt the overwhelming emotion, and it's very uncomfortable, but after it's over, it's very freeing. So, yeah, I've been actually kind of thinking about that a lot lately is just let the emotion come, don't stifle it. Because when I stifle it, that leads to things like skin picking and,
Mhm.
um, putting myself down. And yeah.
Absolutely. You're so right. And now that you brought up skin picking, what changes have you noticed? Really love to hear all the changes that you've noticed, the growth that you've noticed in the skin picking behavior for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, there's been a lot. I mean, everything from personal self-care to excuse me, that train is annoying. Personal self-care to just all the work, the confidence, the changing my self-talk, using a product that really helps, and really just not having the shame or kind of wanting to hide from it, either when I'm by myself or out with other people. I still hesitate a little bit if having if I'm having a bad episode at some point, but I've learned that everybody self-grooms and there are different levels of picking or body focused repetitive behavior that someone might have. So that's helped a lot, all those things, and I'm not even mentioning all of them. Just the awareness of where to put this part of me, in a more not normal, but a more manageable place where it's not using up so much space in my life, because it does use up a lot of space in your life when you're worrying about something like that and how you look And, I've learned willpower doesn't do it, which is hard to understand because I use willpower a lot in my dieting and my exercise. I like the ad that says just do it, and I'm trying to do that. And if I'm going down a bad way, I've got a lot of tools now to kind of reverse, go, that's not the way you want to go. So it takes a lot of reminding, to myself is like, no, don't say that to yourself. Say it another way. So yeah, there's just so many tools and they're all fairly new, but some days I get overwhelmed because oh wow, there's all this good stuff. And I, have to remember just focus on one thing today.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing and what you're saying is that you become a lot kinder to yourself,
Mm.
so much kinder. And I really do see that. So that if you do pick your skin, it's much easier for you to move on and to
Mhm.
be very kind, forgiving, the shame, you've been able to release that. And how has that impacted the behavior of skin picking for you? Just cultivating that kindness.
It's become a lot less because I remember when I didn't understand a lot of the processes that happen behind the mental processes behind skin picking, that it's just not occupying such a big place. And I do have tools to make it better, but it's just, yeah, that's all I can the top thing is just it's not occupying this big chunk in my life. It's just become something that I do, but there are ways I can think about it that reduce my skin picking. And my skin picking has reduced. I do still have episodes. And as I say, I'm recording when I pick to see, because I really think it might be related to hormonal, among other things, but that may be the biggest thing driving it. I just thinking about it so differently than before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like that the change in how you think about it, this new perspective, the kindness and the care you're able to give to yourself, regardless of whether you pick or not, or whether you perform or not, or whether you achieve or not, it's given you so much mental space back.
Hmm.
And how does
Yes.
it feel
Yes.
to see that you've given yourself that now?
Oh, it feels wonderful. Even changing the way my self-talk, the way I talk to myself. I used to, and I still do, but I more than not correct myself. I should be doing that. I didn't finish that. I should do that. To saying to myself, this is an opportunity. I want to do that because this is where it's going to get me. And instead of, I think over the years, because I've been having dermatillomania for, gosh, probably back into my 40s. So it's been over 20 years, just always automatically went to one place. So I think about the approach that your program has is, I know it's been referred to as kind of a victimhood, but I realized that I had such a habit of going in a certain mindset when it happened, and learning to kind of overcome that and refocus where my thoughts go around it is really one of the biggest things of the program, I think. Like
Mm,
stopping, and one of my favorite words from some work we did a while ago was pause. Just stop because you feel your tension growing, and also the changing the self-talk to more positive things. And I'm using it with my diet because for my health I've been trying to lose a lot of weight, and um, I'm often telling myself throughout the day is like when I'm hungry, this is hard, but think of the list of positive things you wanted to get out of that you almost have to get out of this for my health. And that helps me through it. But it's not easy, but definitely the positive self-talk helps a lot.
hmm. And I love that you're applying what you've learned, the tools that you've learned in helping you with skin picking and with yourself to other aspects of your life because it's true. This work isn't just solely for skin picking. It's personal development, it's growth, it's
Mhm.
healing. And so whatever you do in the context of skin picking can be translated into literally any other context of your life. So I really
Mhm.
love that you're doing that. It's awesome to see.
Mm. Well, and I think thanks to you, I mean, I think some aspects of your program, bits are maybe in other programs, but the fact that, you share so much about your journey with this, and and we know that 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 is a huge plus. And your coaching style is so encouraging, and it feels good to have people say those things to you, and kind of be there in your ear encouraging you, because again, our mind wants to go back to, you didn't do that, why not?
Mm,
So I think it's a big advantage to the program, is you speak from personal experience. And this such a great group of people that, on our weekly calls we communicate with. And I always pick up, I mean, it's just amazing how self-aware some of them are. I picked up great tips and, ways of thinking from other people. So, and I didn't at the beginning. I had tried so many other ways to combat my skin picking, is, gloves, fiddle toys, online support. I participated in studies. I've done group calls, just a ton of stuff. So I was really getting skeptical. I don't think anything's going to work. I'm stuck with this. And then by chance or fate, I came across your program, and it's such a different approach, and it makes so much more sense to me than, just trying to cover it up with other things, physical things. And some of them may work in conjunction, but I don't want to denigrate anyone who's using those, because it is all a journey. But I just feel that this process of learning the mind body connection and recentering, refocusing where you put your energy in dealing with it, is just makes a lot of sense, and works. I mean, I've seen it. A lot of people have said that.
yeah, thank you so much for your openness and your kind words and for
You're
sharing so much about your experience. I really do appreciate
welcome.
it. And it's really lovely to hear feedback about your experience inside the program, because of course I don't know what your experience is like, because I haven't
Mhm.
I conduct the program, I'm not inside it. So I
Right.
really do appreciate hearing this kind of
Mhm.
feedback. It's really lovely.
Mhm.
And I also want to highlight what you said with the community, because the
Mhm.
community is so powerful. And it's always
Mhm.
those inside the program who really get involved in the community that get the most out of it.
Mhm.
Because you're right, you connect with other people, you realize, wow, other people have been through exactly the same thing, or they have the same feelings,
Mhm.
they have the same thoughts.
Mhm.
I'm not alone in this, I'm not isolated. And then as well, people have their wisdom that they get to share, their little tips, their little tricks, their little insights
Mhm.
that just click at the right moment.
Mhm.
And also just knowing that whatever you're going through, everyone in that group gets it.
Mhm.
Everyone gets it. No
Yes.
one's going to judge. No
Yeah.
one's going to be confused. No one's going to ask why. They're just going to get
Mhm.
that, yeah, because we've been there before too.
Right.
So
And
it's,
you can
yeah,
see it. Oh, excuse me. You can see it in the comments on the platform we're using now, which is, I don't know, something about it is just makes it easier to follow comments and to share, and it's kind of become in this organic thing, or we're all just, I think the platform just clicks or something. But there's been a lot of sharing, where we not even talking to you or responding to you, or just sharing with each other. And sometimes it's funny, there's humor, and sometimes, people are really struggling, and there's almost always some nugget of, wisdom that you could pick up something from. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I mean, when you get so many inspired, self-aware individuals in one space who are all working
Mhm.
towards a common goal, I mean,
Right.
it's really a space that produces something really special. And
Mhm.
I also, just for the listeners, I want to clarify, we used to have our private group on Facebook, but because we're working with behavioral addiction, or whatever, how you want to call it, a condition, how, whatever you're comfortable calling it, social media didn't really work for anyone. I didn't particularly like having that. Literally everyone in the group was like, it'd be nice to not be on Facebook for this, because then a lot of people would end up scrolling. So We then moved the group to Discord. So if anyone doesn't know what Discord is, it is how would you describe that? It's a online community platform,
Mhm.
but it's not
Yeah.
social media.
Right.
Kind of like Reddit, but it's not Reddit. It's the
Yeah.
only thing I could liken
It's
it to.
not so much in the public domain, maybe.
Exactly.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
that's
what
true.
happens
That's
behind
true.
the scenes either,
Yeah.
but
So you can,
I
yeah.
feel more comfortable using it.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people do. And like you said, it has way more structure, so it's easy to keep up, it's easy to find things. And because it's not
Mhm.
social media, I feel like people are a lot more comfortable to share and to go on there because they're not afraid of ending up doom scrolling or things like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the doom scrolling. I was just thinking, just you never know, Big Brother. It's like you never
Yeah,
know how
yeah,
much your
true.
information's out there. Anybody could find anything about us if they wanted to. But anyways, it's just another level of security, and it does make you feel more secure in sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I'm
Mhm.
curious because we do weekly group calls. So I'd
Mhm.
really love to know, what is your favorite thing about them? What stands out to you the most about those group calls? If there is a specific one that comes to your mind where like that one was
Mhm.
really just super powerful for me, I'd love to
Mhm.
know. Just a quick break to let you know that if you are resonating with Melissa's story, and if you would love to gain access to the program that has allowed her to experience so much growth and connection and healing, if you are done trying to figure it all out on your own, if you're done trying to use grit and drive and willpower to create change, if you would really love to just be able to relax, take the weight off your shoulders, and let yourself be supported, then I invite you to join Melissa and the other incredible members of Strength, the Roadmap to Healing from Chronic Skin Picking, a program that I specifically designed to help people like you on their healing journey. We address the root cause. We don't mess around with surface level solutions. We really focus on what works. If this is calling to you, I would love to have you with us. Go ahead and click on the link in the show notes. You can learn more about this program and also apply to join us. It is application only because I am very, very passionate about protecting the beautiful healing space that has been created in Strength, which means only those who are truly ready to embark on this path will be able to gain access. So go ahead and click on the link in the show notes, apply to join us. I will check out your application and I will be in contact with you about the next steps. Let's get back into the episode.
I like the themes that you spend time putting together. Usually start with a theme one week, and then there may be a follow-up to that theme the next week, kind of going over what you presented. I think the themes that you present are really good. I'm thinking in particular of the one on fear and the other one on like thinking of your personality traits or things that either hold you back or are strengths as a patchwork. I liked that one because you use a lot of physical graphs and things that are helpful when you're thinking about it. I can picture that patchwork in my head about who I am, and it's not that you want to get rid of any of those parts. You want to put things that don't serve you in a better place, I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
not a better place, but I'm not explaining it as well as you do. But yeah, I think I like those themes. And then the discussion we have after that, just about everybody can relate. Or, every once in a while someone will say, well, I'm not sure I think about it quite like that, and they'll bring up um, a different way of looking at it, and that opens more discussion. But and people, it's amazing. I mean, people are getting their children ready for school and driving in a car, but people really commit to being on the calls, and or they're getting dressed and they won't show themselves. So it's kind of funny sometimes when you're on like Zoom meetings for your professional life. It's very structured and you must be there on time and stuff. So it's comfortable and people can participate whatever they're doing. So
Yeah, I like that you brought that up. It is a very, very casual and comfortable environment. And you're right. Some people are eating breakfast or getting their
mhm,
breakfast ready or getting their kids ready or driving to work
mhm,
or
mhm.
doing the makeup or their hair or anything like that. Or some
Right.
people are actually in bed.
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
Me, I'm kind of old fashioned. I'm not, I didn't grow up with the whole Zoom thing. So I'm like, okay, make sure at least this half is good and your hair is combed. And
Yeah. It's okay if you
it's
still got pajama pants on, but got to put a
yeah,
proper
I
shirt
don't
on.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been on some online support calls, and if you don't check in right at the start, then you're not allowed to come in and interrupt everybody. So I think that's a lovely aspect of the group calls too, is, we're all busy, especially young people and people working. I'm retired, but who have children is like, gosh, I don't know if I could have done this work when I was raising two kids. That's a lot. Big commitment.
It is, absolutely. And that's also the inspiring thing about the group is that you meet people doing that kind of thing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's so inspiring and so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really perspective shifting,
Mm-hmm.
which when we can shift our perspective and start thinking differently, I'm sure you've heard me say this before, probably on a recent call. When we can start thinking differently, we can start acting differently, which means we get different
Mm-hmm.
results. It was Einstein? Oh, I think I'm going to butcher his quote, but you can't solve a problem. I think I got it. You can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
that's a good
yeah,
one. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a great one. I love it. And those kinds of group calls, they really can open your eyes because you get to share experiences with other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's underestimated how powerful community is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said it before, I really do see it, that those who engage most in the community get the most results. Those who show up to the
Mm-hmm.
calls, those who post in the group, who connect, who talk, they're the ones that get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
really,
And
it's, yeah.
it wasn't until I really accepted it, because I've been in a lot of communities, either with, educating young people and kind of family group dynamic kind of meetings. I've done a lot of self-awareness work all my life, but I've always been kind of a loner. I'm very independent. I like a lot of solitude time, and it took me a while to buy into the community because my brain was kind of like, I've done this before. We'll listen and see where it goes. And you're right. It isn't until you really kind of open up and let go of your preconceived ideas about, how I used to relate. Like, I don't want to be in group. I'll figure this out by myself. You are missing out a lot of good feedback, and it is very comforting. And that's been one thing I've challenged myself with is being more in community, where I live, and realizing that it's important that I have other people in my life. I still get overwhelmed sometimes, but it is a good feeling to participate in something and feel the other people around, especially in today's climate, politically and environmentally and everything. That it's a tough time.
Yeah. And I
So
think as well, the world is so disconnected that people are kind of getting used to
definitely.
that disconnection. But we don't
Yes.
realize what an impact it actually is having on us. And we feel like, well, I'm better off alone. I want to figure it out on my own. And I really want to acknowledge that
Hmm.
because I've been there too. I still feel that
Hmm.
way sometimes. Like, I don't want to have to collaborate with other people. I want to do it on
Hmm.
my own because it'll be more
Right.
efficient, more fast, and I don't
Yes,
have
definitely.
to, yeah. And it's like
Hmm.
we want to get to the goal, we want to get to the end result as fast as we can.
Right. Yeah.
But especially with something like skin picking, that kind of push attitude and energy doesn't get us that far. Like you've said,
Hmm.
you've
Hmm.
tried the pushing, you tried being hard on yourself, you tried
Hmm.
disciplining yourself, and it works in certain aspects.
Hmm.
But because chronic skin picking is bred from shame and
Hmm.
suppression and
Hmm.
harshness, we can't heal it with that same energy. And so it really does challenge
Hmm.
us to soften, slow down,
Hmm.
be kind, be caring, and to especially soften and be kind when we feel like we don't deserve it.
Right. Well, it just goes back to that quote, Einstein's, you just shared. It's the thinking that comes with skin picking or whatever is not going to, that same thing is not going to solve the problem,
Exactly.
because yeah, it's you can definitely see the patterns you've gotten into. And I think humans are such creatures of habit. We want to go right where it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normal. But it's funny, I work in a shelter, and this I'm always thinking about, because we talk a lot about s- picking as a form of self grooming, and all animals do it, including humans. And I work in an animal shelter, and I've seen birds that have picked out all their feathers, and I think of that because the shelter is a very high stressful area, or dogs will constantly work at a spot and get sores on their skin. It's all around you. I mean, we definitely do some things that are in direct response to the stress and tension in our lives. So, the mind body connection is, I think, definitely the way. Yeah. I'm not about to hold psychology sessions with the birds in the shelter, but I do with the cats. Sorry.
But
I love humor.
no, I love your humor as well, Melissa. Bring it all. Bring it all. I love it.
But I
I
just get
so
that mental picture of the bird with its feathers plucked out. It's like, do you really want all your plumage gone? I mean, you know.
yeah, yeah, but you're so right. And animals really can show us that very clearly is that when they are under stress that they can't handle, they're going to start to
Mhm,
self-destruct.
mhm.
Same as people. The only difference is that animals don't get stuck in their head because they don't have a conscious mind.
Right,
They can't
right.
think and talk to themselves. And so they're
Mhm,
very much impacted by their environment. And so
mm,
if you were to take that bird or that dog or that cat that is self-destructing, over grooming, picking out their feathers or chewing too much at a
mhm,
certain spot, and you put
mhm,
them in an environment where they are nurtured, they have enough food, they have water, they have sunlight, they have
mhm,
peace and calm, but also loving
mhm.
interaction, they're going
Yep,
to stop.
mhm.
I
Yep.
even I even grew up with a cat that as he got older, he got anxiety, he had to be on Valium,
Mm,
and he also started chewing at his legs so that all the
mm,
fur would be gone and it'd
mhm.
start to turn into wounds. And the thing is, he grew up in the same environment that I did.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's
What does
very
that say? Yeah.
telling, exactly, very, very stressful
Mhm,
environment. And you know a bit of my story because I've shared it quite a
mhm,
lot in our group
mhm.
calls.
Right.
And I've also shared it on this podcast. But the thing with animals is, yes, you can take them out of the toxic environment, put them in a healthy one, and they'll thrive.
Mhm,
But humans, you can take them out of a toxic environment, they won't realize they're in a healthy one because they're in their heads and there's so much they haven't processed, or there's
mhm,
so much they're not allowing themselves to process.
mhm. Right.
And so that's where this mind body connection come in. That's where the deeper work comes in. That's where the community comes in because we need a bit more
Mhm,
support in moving through that and moving through the mental blocks because
mhm,
animals just need a loving, caring environment, potentially rehabilitation, depending on their experiences.
mhm,
But it's much easier for an animal to move on because they very much live in the
mhm.
moment.
Yes, definitely. And for me, early on, when I realized, and this was before I even knew it was a diagnosis, I guess they call it excoriation disorder
Hmm.
nowadays, which I don't really like to use the term disorder, but it's a real thing, and it's in the DSM, I think you call it. Early on, even before I was aware of what I had, because I really thought I was not the only person, but one of a few people who did it, and that was really hard to sit with. I knew somehow that there was so much I was suppressing in my life and marriage, um, and not really feeling like my true self, that I knew that was why I was turning all that anxiety and tension and just unsettled feeling in on myself. It's like I knew intuitively that this is why I'm doing it to myself, because I'm keeping it all in and I'm not working on it. I'm not letting it out. And I, have a lot of other personality traits that kind of go along with people who struggle with things like this, being a people pleaser, and um, having a lot of empathy for people. Although I know there's a new podcast I need to watch on empathy. It just popped in my head. Oh, empathy. But it just, yeah, it was so obvious to me, but I just didn't have any tools to do anything with that knowledge of, you are really doing a number on yourself by keeping this all in. You know, but I have done a lot on it, like removed myself from some situations and kind of changed my life around. And, this work is part of it.
Yeah, you've made some incredible changes in your life. And
You,
also, because you did come into the program already with a lot of self-awareness, which is generally where most people are when they join. They've already been working on themselves. They have a lot of self-awareness. They understand a lot of why they do the things that they do. It's
hmm
just kind of figuring out, well, what do I do with that knowledge now?
hmm
It's
right.
cool that I know, but it's not helping me to move forward. So it's that
Yeah.
forward movement that I feel like we really work with in our group
hmm
and together and things like that.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, just let me know.
Sure.
So there's been a part of your journey that's been around finding acceptance for your age. And I know that
Yes.
some of the resistance around being on the group was because everyone was so much younger.
hmm
I mean, there's some people in Australia who are closer to your age, but they don't join those
hmm
calls because they're in Australia, different time zone.
mm Right.
But I would love for you to share with the listeners, because I'm sure there are people listening right now who really resonate with you, who are a bit
hmm
older. They're not in the typical age range, which is usually around 25 to 35 or 40. Typically, the
hmm
people probably listening are in the program.
Yeah.
But I'd love for you to share your wisdom with people who are a bit older, who are struggling with this, maybe feeling down on themselves because of their age as well. What would
Right.
what words of wisdom could you share with them to help them navigate this and move forward?
hmm Well, I think in this day and age, I'm 68 and my parents were also older. I think I come from a generation that had a lot more expectations than maybe women and men, but mostly women because we tend to be the nurturers and everything. But when women had to go to work outside the home and but also still do childcare, which you're still doing, I think I just had such an expectation of myself to pull all the commitments I had made, to my marriage, to having children, which I really wanted, just who I was in society. It was a huge struggle for me to work and also be a mother. And I think young women and men are these days are still struggling big time with that. But I think I'm kind of like the tail end, I'm a baby boomer, tail end of that era in which there were so many of what a woman should be and what a man should be. And it made it very difficult. And I definitely think that held me back a lot on my journey of self-awareness, and even the mental health thing, because I do struggle, not as much as I used to, but with, depression and anxiety, which I never thought I had, but I've since learned that I did. And I think the world is a lot more in tune with the struggles that people with mental health issues go through. And it's not there yet. I mean, there's still a lot of stigmas attached to it. But I think part of me was, especially when I hear the young women, I think back and, oh, I wish I had that kind of insight into myself that they have at their age, 20s, 30s, 40s. And I kind of started feeling like, oh, I wasted all that time and I don't, I have less time in front of me than I do behind me now. But that's not the way, you can't think that way. And I'm trying to change that in my mind is today is a new day. I can only live right now, so let's let's make the best of it and not just spend our time, waste our time just feeling really, disappointed that it didn't happen earlier. So it's a gift, but sometimes it can also really work against you. And I don't feel that way anymore with the younger women because in a way there's still that younger woman in me. I know when I play sports, I still think I'm 30 and then I go wipe out, on the court because I think I can still go after a shot. And injured myself enough that I'm, no, that's your mind is 30, but your body is not. So yeah, there was a lot of disappointment, but for some reason that's really dissipated. And disappointment in I had done this sooner, because I think that's just a thought that can hold you back.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I really like that you highlighted that it's a different kind of society we have now. It's really out in the open. Mental health is a big topic, and there are so many resources, and it's really normal and accepted to talk about it, and it's normal to take it seriously. But if you grow up in a society where that's not the case,
Right.
it's going to be very hard to find the kind of support or the validation or the encouragement that you need to embark on that kind of journey. Yeah.
Definitely.
And there's something you said at the end there. Oh, that's right. I feel like I saw a connection there, and tell me if you feel it too. Between you don't feel that kind of, how would you put it? Down on yourself because you didn't do these things or didn't know these things sooner. You said you've released that, and there's a lot of more acceptance there, and you're really focusing on the present and the next day, and it's a much more forward-thinking mindset. And I try to refrain from saying positive because I feel like that can get mixed up with toxic positivity. But it is more positive. And how much do you feel like that is related to the increase in how much you celebrate yourself and recognize the things that there are to celebrate? Just a quick reminder that when it comes to healing from chronic skin picking, we are not supposed to do this alone. The clients who I see get the best results are the ones who are willing and wanting to engage in the community. The reason why this program, Strength, is so effective and so powerful is not only does it give you a roadmap to healing, not only does it take your hand and guide you through the process to healing from chronic skin picking, the process I've been through and many, many other people have been through too, it also gives you a really beautiful support network of people who get what it is that you're going through. A support network of like-minded people who are also forward-thinking, who also want to work on themselves, who also want to grow, who don't want to stay stuck, who are curious, who are looking for answers, who truly, deeply understand what it is that you're experiencing. That kind of space is just incredible to be a part of. And that in itself contributes immensely to your healing. And I also got to say, I am yet to find another support group for chronic skin picking like this one that is so focused on your growth and healing and personal development. There is inspiration, there's hope, there's real, down-to-earth, tangible ideas and advice to help you through whatever part of your healing journey that you're going through. So if you are feeling drawn to this, listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and click on the link in the show notes and apply to be a part of this amazing, one-of-a-kind community. Again, we're not supposed to do this alone. Trust me, I've seen it time and time again. The lone wolf approach to healing from chronic skin picking does not work. It only gets you so far, but at some point we need a community. We need support. We need some guidance. We need someone and something to help lift the weight off our shoulders. So go ahead and click on the link in the show notes, apply to join us. I'm really looking forward to receiving your application and taking you through that process. Let's get back to the episode.
Oh, I think it's related quite a bit, because I just know and it seems like I'm not doing that nearly as much as I used to. Just kind of, reruns in my head of past relationships, past ways I would engage with other people, ways I would think about myself, and it just negative. I understand what you're saying about negative versus positive, because as you say, how we think everything's a part of us, and we don't want to particularly call them good and bad, because they're all part of us. But I think, just realizing that that's going back and constantly looking back is just holding you back. It's just, and that's a hard wisdom or thought to wrap your mind around when you're younger, I think, because, you just kind of feel a lot more invincible. And as you age, you realize you're not invincible. But it's just, I really like the idea of now, and it's very freeing. I mean, if you do meditation, it's the same thing. You know, try to think in the now. Thoughts will try to get in, but just it's very freeing. But it's a hard, for me, it's a hard practice because I get antsy and I want to be doing something, and that's another part of me that I sometimes just breathe. You know, breathe in, hold it, breathe out. So yeah.
I really feel like a lot of people can resonate with you that with you on that with meditation, feeling a bit antsy and just want to get up and
Mhm.
do something. And I
Mhm.
just want to throw out there, anyone, for the listeners, sometimes when we feel that way, it's because we need to sit with it and just process that energy. But sometimes it's really just because meditation is maybe not the thing we need in that moment.
Mm.
Maybe it's
Oh,
something
yeah.
else. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's like essentially all the work that we do together. It's really getting in tune with getting really adept at understanding the language of our body and what it's trying to communicate. So that instead of
Mhm.
with our mind saying, well, I have to do this now because this is by the book, we realize,
Mhm.
well, okay, that might be by the book, but what I actually need is this. And that's more
Mhm.
important than doing things quote unquote
Mhm.
the right way.
Yeah, because I know for me when I start feeling antsy and just feel like I have built up energy inside of me, you know, I'll go for a walk or get on my stationary bike, and I work in physical activity throughout my day because I found it really hard to, you know, okay, 9 o'clock, you're gonna do these exercises because I have a bad back, you know, to strengthen your core. I find that, you know, if I'm waiting for my coffee, I'll be doing push-ups against the counter. If I'm at my daughter's visiting my grandkitty, she has some really heavy weights. I don't usually use such heavy weights, but I'll be doing, you know, some of my core exercise with the weight on the floor. And, you know, I try to get the cat to do them with me, but she's kind of off doing her own thing. You know, so I've found a way to work it in without feeling like, for some reason, I get very bored with routine and things like that. And I just have to mix it up. And then by the end of the day, especially now that I'm writing it down in my journal, I realize, oh, wow, you picked it. You know, you walked to the senior center to play ping pong this morning, which I do twice a week. And it's not that far, but it's exercise and gets my heart rate up. You know, I realize that I do work in a lot of physical activity. I think when we hold ourselves to that ideal of all or nothing, that, you know, it just can go downhill very fast and you really abandon the practice, which
Mhm.
I still do, but you got to figure out what's the most important, what you get the most out of, and let the rest go because that's somebody else's ideal, not mine or what works for me. So.
I love, so love everything you just said. And I'm so appreciate that you brought that up because that kind of flexibility is a huge skill to have and it's a huge skill to
Mm.
develop. And it really can change your life. Because, like you said, most people don't really like these really rigid routines where I have to do this at this time and I got to do the exact same process.
Mhm.
Finding ways to work that kind of thing into your life in a way that feels right.
Mhm.
Because not everything has to be difficult. Not everything has to be hard. Not
Doesn't,
everything
yeah.
has to be a challenge. We don't have to use grit and willpower to get ourselves to do everything that's important.
Mhm. Mhm.
And having that level of flexibility to say, well, I really don't like doing the exercise in the morning like that. I don't like the routine, and I probably don't end up doing it if I try and make myself do it. So, how can I
Mhm.
work with myself with this? And it's just
Mhm.
integrating it into your day in such a flexible, kind, caring way instead of
Mhm.
this militant, you have to do it. And if you don't do it, you failed. I mean,
Right.
we
Yeah.
don't get anywhere with that.
Right. And that was how I thought big time, especially here in the US. You know, I often think, and I don't really know because I'm not European, but I kind of get an inkling that their way of life is so much more relaxed, or in some other countries, you know, nap in the afternoon, eat dinner at 10. You know, in the US, we're so driven to work and get the goals done. And it really, it's, it, I guess it's good for industry and all, but it's not really that great for yourself if you can figure out a way that works for you and not what works for somebody else. Then I think having some flexibility, even with this process about skin picking, it's just flexible. If one thing doesn't work, you try something else, and something that you can do for fairly regularly. But if you don't, that's okay. And I definitely didn't think like that before. I would be like, "Oh, you didn't do that today." Even I'm an artist, so even in my art, if it's not going the way, or I don't get so many paintings done, or I miss a deadline for an art exhibit, I have really cut back on putting myself down. It's like it's just not useful. It's not what I want to be doing in my life, is just constantly feeling less than because I didn't live up to some, expectation that I had. So it's not to say that I mean, it's still important to challenge yourself and work through some things and keep going with something. It depends on what it is, but even with exercising, I'll like do one more flight of stairs, or you know, walk to that other road down there. I often do that when I'm walking. It's like, oh, I'm really tired, my back's hurting, everything, but just go to that part there and turn around. So I think it's important to push yourself a little bit more out of your comfort level physically, like you do mentally, because we're capable a lot more than we think we are.
I
So,
so agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I so agree. And I think what you're describing, there's a difference between challenging ourselves and with love, pushing ourselves to try a little harder, be a little better, not to be better as a person, but to improve skills or like to stretch ourselves, stretch our mind, what we believe, and also physically. And then also berating and punishing ourselves if we don't meet the standard that we have set.
Right.
Because that's the kind of, so many people do it and they don't realize that kind of berating, that punishment, that putting down, and it's so excessive and so unhelpful. And it's not the same as challenging ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you come to a point where you either are getting tired of the routine, or you don't want to go that extra mile, you have to decide, is it myself setting the expectation, or is it outside? Is it other people that I'm trying to live up to? And then if it's you want it for yourself, and what benefits can I get from this? And, I'll just feel better that I push myself a little bit. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's a part of me that I really like, is that I will push myself, but I'm learning not, whether it's the expectations of my kids. I mean, my parents are no longer living, but, even my siblings, my friends, just really thinking about, what do I need right now? And, I don't have the energy to go do that thing. I really need to be quiet and sit with myself right now. Or, just the expectations of this world, are pretty strong. Hard to go against, because then again you're feeling like you're not good enough, and you don't want to feel that. But
Yeah. It's what I feel like you're speaking on is just being more connected to your intuition and allowing your intuition to speak for you and help you make decisions rather than allowing external expectations from other people or society to dictate what you do or don't do. Because then that
right.
does lead to a lot of burnout, exhaustion, frustration, resentment, feeling like we're neglected, feeling like we're not good enough. I mean, it's just like it's a whole
Oh
lot of
yeah, I
stuff.
did that for years. And um, I think, I mean, and we haven't even talked about, values and boundaries yet here, but I think that's kind of what we're talking about. I never learned how to set good boundaries. So I would, say yes to a lot of stuff that I really wanted to say no to, but I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And I do have a deep sense of my values. So that knowledge is there, but I'm just learning to honor that more.
Mm,
Um, And, the values we discover in this program are like those things that are non-negotiable kind of things inside of you that you hold kind of sacred. And you have to learn that they're sacred, because I always felt in my gut when somebody or something is really going against my values. I get this tension in my gut. It's like something about this feels off. This is not really me. But then I wouldn't have the strength or the confidence to kind of like, I can't do that because that's really against my values. That's really against who I want to be. So, and that's tough. I mean, I think boundaries are really difficult for a lot of people, but they're so important. And I've got a long way to go learning them and
And you've come
practicing them.
so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do remember doing that values work with you, and the values and the boundaries and things like that. And I remember it was very
Mhm.
powerful.
Mm.
It made a big difference in
Yeah, I was
how you
surprised.
perceived
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah. Yeah, it's really
Yeah, I
powerful
was
work.
surprised how long the list, once you start really thinking about it, what is really important at the core of your being to you. And as we know, there are a lot of people don't have values or aren't cognizant of the values.
Yeah.
It's to be able to do that, I think that's the definition of having character, is, having really strong values and
Yeah.
being able to stand up for them.
Yeah.
So,
I really like the way you put that. That's the definition of character, is having values and being able
mhm,
to stand up for them. That I
mhm.
really like that, because that's what makes someone unique.
Mhm.
And yeah. And
Yeah.
I just, for the listeners, we're talking about the values that we're talking about. It's a part of the program that we do at the very beginning, which is figuring out what are your core values. Why? Because your core values are your boundaries, and they essentially create a roadmap for the version of yourself that you want to become. So it's really important, deep, foundational work that we do at the very beginning. And it's always just incredible to see what comes up for people, what they realize, what they notice, and how inspiring it can be as well.
Mhm. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think initially I thought of a ton of things, and we did those columns, and then we kept narrowing it down until and I'm sure mine still needs some fine tuning, but you realize which ones are kind of surface, and you narrow it down until it's more, you write down a word or you see a word and go, yes. And a lot of the other values come under that. And it's difficult to really hone down what, the 5 or 6 are. But once you do it, it's like, oh wow, I didn't even
Hmm.
know I had that value.
Yeah. And it feels good. Feels
It
good to
does
have
feel
those
good.
5 or 6 there
Very
where you're
good.
looking like, that
Yep.
really feels like me. That is me. And that's
Yep.
also who I want to become more of.
Right.
Mm.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I just have two more questions to
Sure.
ask. The next question is, what did you particularly love about our sessions together? So what about the approach, the experience did you particularly love?
But our
Yeah.
one-on-one personal coaching. What I really loved was like you didn't let me off the hook. And you did it in a very kind way. But I think I once said to you, because I know about me that I think a lot in my head, and I can use that to cover up doing the more emotional work and the deeper stuff. And I think early on I did say to you, don't let me go to my head, because I do have a great curiosity and I do love learning. I think the brain is fascinating. I think, frankly, I'm surprised we function as well as we do, because it's very complicated. But I'm just fascinated by just the science behind it all and everything. And I think I overthink. I do that with a lot of things in my life, but just to avoid, and I didn't really know I was avoiding it, because as I said, I didn't grow up in an emotional family. So that's a new thing for me. But our personal one-on-one coaching is just the fact that with loving kindness, you did, took me to the hard place. And I think that's a real skill. It's scary as heck, but it's um, that's, I knew that's where I needed to go. And I've definitely gotten that from anybody else, I guess. So that was, I think, the thing that stands out the most for me.
That's incredible.
So
Thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing that. I really
yeah.
appreciate it. And it really warms my heart to hear that that was your experience and that it was so
Hmm.
powerful for you because
Hmm.
that's the whole point of this work. So it's
Hmm.
really beautiful to see that you benefited so much from that space. And also, I want to acknowledge you because you really came in, even knowing these fears and this resistance, you really came in wanting to go in 100% straight from day one. You were so
Hmm.
open and so ready.
Hmm.
It was like you've just been such a pleasure to work with.
Thanks. Same, same. And the last year was extremely difficult for me physically. I had surgery, I had things going on, but also serious relationship issues that really brought me into a very dark place. And I'm kind of thinking if what had happened a year ago happened now, how would I deal with it differently? And I know the answer to that. It would still be bad things still happen to us, and life will continue to be that way. We'll lose loved ones. We'll, have physical things that hold us back. But I think all this work, regardless of whether it's for skin picking or not, it really helps you meet what life brings you in a much safer and less debilitating way. I'm not as fearful about bad things happening because I will. I'm sure I'll go through periods when it feels like the world is falling apart. I think the tools that I've learned will definitely help me deal with them that and I know I'll get through it. So
That was so, so beautifully said. So beautifully said. Thank you. And really, I have a feeling a lot of people need to hear that. And it's going to touch a lot of people's hearts and really speak to them on a deep level.
yeah, and we haven't mentioned the podcast that you do, but also you have interesting people on. And I think one recently was about that one, the same subject. It might have been, was it Matt you had on, I think?
Matt, yeah.
Yeah. And I think he talked about that a little bit, about bad things happen.
Hmm.
You've heard the term bad things happen to good people. Well, bad things happen to everybody. And it's, yeah, learning the tools to get through that rather than totally falling apart.
100%.
So,
Yeah. And that does give us a lot of security and trust and safety in ourselves to know, like, okay, I can't know what's going to come, but I know I'll handle it and I'll be okay.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so now I have my last question. You've already
Mm-hmm.
shared so much wisdom
Mm-hmm.
already. I'm going to ask for just a little bit more. And to those listening who are on their own healing journey from chronic skin picking, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give them?
Do this work with loving kindness for yourself. And, you may have been through a lot of trauma or not, but just the forgiveness, I think, with who you are and not what you think you should be. It's just kind of go at it with an open mind. I know we use the word curiosity a lot, but just be open. And even if you don't quite buy into any program, I think there's nuggets of things that you can take away that will really improve your life. So I think, and that's something I had to learn, and it was actually through a therapist I worked with about 6 years ago, and I'd never heard it before. Is like when I speak, if I'm really frustrated, I would be very critical and very agitated, whatever. And I learned how by practicing how to speak with loving kindness. And so turn that inward and do it to yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and it just will open a lot of new avenues to think about yourself. Yeah.
I love that. That's really powerful advice and such a beautiful way to bring this interview to a close. Thank you so, so much, Melissa. I've really, really enjoyed spending this time with you. And
Same
yeah,
here.
thank you. Yeah.
Because I'll miss our one-on-ones.
Yeah. Although you'll still be able to join us on the group calls. We're still going to see each other.
I know.
It's
And
nice to
I've
have
got
that
lots
connection.
of tools, and you are accessible. So
yeah. I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Melissa, like all my clients, to be honest, has a very special place in my heart. I really, really loved working with her, and I honestly gained so much myself from our connection. If you love this episode, please go ahead and leave a 5-star review. It really supports this podcast and helps me to keep putting out episodes every single week. And if you want to go that extra step and support me even further, leave a written review of your thoughts. If you're on Spotify, you can even leave a comment on this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have an excellent week wherever you are. I will see you next week for the next episode of Untapped Confidence.